You wake up on October 30th, 1956 in Budapest. 5 days into freedom. Soviet tanks pulled back. The hated secret police gone. Then you hear it. Gunfire. Republic Square, the State Protection Authority headquarters. One last pocket of terror. Inside that building sit 48 officers who still believe the old world can survive. Outside stands a city that wants them dead. This is how the most feared organization in Cold War Eastern Europe bled out on a Budapest square. No courts, no mercy. Just rage meeting fear at a building that tortured thousands. The address at 60 Andrassy Avenue already had blood in the walls before the communists arrived. The arrow-crossed Nazis used it first. Torture chambers ready-made. Then, in January 1945, the Soviets handed it to their Hungarian servants, the Budapest Department of State Political Police. They shortened it to AVO. By 1950, it was AVH. Different letters. Same screaming. Gabor Peter ran it, born Benjamin Eisenberger in Újfehértó on May 14, 1906. Taylor turned communist, turned interrogator. He joined the party in 1931 when joining could get you killed. The Soviets trained him. When they took Hungary, he got his reward, 60 Andrassy Avenue and a nation to terrorize. Between 1945 and 1952, Peter built an empire of 50,000 operatives, 10 times the pay of factory workers. Their salaries would become evidence displayed on corpses. Peter's motto never appeared in documents, but everyone knew it. Whatever it takes to make them confess. If you value documented Cold War terror and Eastern European history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual. Using sources from the historical archives of the Hungarian State Security published in their multi-year compilation project, completed in 2023, and from the extensive testimony collections in Laszlo Őrsi's Bloody Thursday from Századvég Kiadó, 1991 edition, which contains previously sealed interrogation records and witness statements. Now, back to the information. Fingernails pulled with pliers, electric current through genitals, high-pressure water until ribs crack, standing facing walls, nose pressed into concrete for 12 hours, arms horizontal, no movement. Vladimir Farkas testified in 1989. Lieutenant Colonel, AVO veteran, he admitted everything: the fingernail extraction, the death of István Ries, social democrat, beaten until his organs failed. Farkas said when AVO methods failed, the Soviet MGB arrived to finish. Their specialty, immersion in hydrochloric acid, not to kill, to break, vats big enough for a torso. The smell never left 60 Andrassy. Political prisoners slept on wet planks in basement cells. No toilet, no bucket. No clothing changes. Food came once daily. Thin broth. Interrogations started at midnight. Sleep deprivation for 72 hours standard. Then the questions, then the beatings, then the confessions. True or false didn't matter. The signature did. Laszlo Rock learned this. Minister of Interior. Peter's boss, arrested May 30th, 1948. The charge, plotting with Marshal Tito and Western intelligence to overthrow Hungarian communism. Peter promised Rajk his family would live if he confessed. Rajk confessed at his trial. September 1949. He said every word they wanted, guilty of everything. October 15th, 1949, executed. Then Peter killed Rajk's entire extended family anyway. Promises from torturers mean nothing. János Kadar replaced Rajk as interior minister. In 1950, he fell from favor. 1951, the AVH arrested him. Same building, same cells, same torturers. One day you run the machine, next day it crushes you. Kadar survived. Others didn't. Nearly 300,000 Hungarians arrested annually through the early 1950s. Most never saw trial. Labor camps in Hungarian countryside or shipped to Soviet gulags. The Wallenberg case showed how far Peter would reach. Raoul Wallenberg saved thousands of Jews in Budapest in 1945, then vanished into Soviet custody. By 1953, Stalin wanted to prove Wallenberg died from Zionist conspiracy, not Soviet kidnapping. AVH grabbed Jewish leaders. Miksa Domonkos kidnapped April 7, 1953, early morning. Dr. Laszlo Benedek seized same day. Lajos Stuckler arrested. Karoli Szabo captured on the street April 8th. No warrants, no lawyers, no word to families for 6 months. The interrogations aimed to extract confessions that Budapest Zionists murdered Wallenberg. Electric torture, beatings, sleep deprivation for weeks. Stalin died March 5th, 1953. The show trial preparations stopped, but the damage held. Domonkos spent 1 week in hospital, then died at home from internal injuries. Stuckler released psychologically destroyed, never recovered. Even Peter fell. January 1953. Stalin's anti-Semitic purge reached Budapest. Peter arrested despite running the terror himself. Jewish ancestry made him suspect, accused of working for British and Zionist intelligence. He confessed, sent to prison. Released 1959 with low government job. The machine ate everyone eventually. March 1953. Everything shifted. Stalin dead. Nikita Khrushchev taking power. Hungary got Imre Nagy as prime minister, moderate reformer. Between 1953 and 1955, Nagy reined in the AVH, not abolished, controlled. Matthias Rákosi still held power as party secretary. April 18, 1955. Rákosi forced Nagy out, stripped him of party membership, replaced him with Rákosi's man Andras Hegedus. The brief thaw ended. AVH operations resumed full strength, but the people remembered freedom. February 25th, 1956. Khrushchev had delivered his secret speech, denouncing Stalin's crimes. The speech reached Hungary in copies. Students read it. Workers discussed it. The Petofi Circle. Debating club attracted thousands. Open criticism of Rákosi in newspapers and radio. July 18th, 1956. Moscow forced Rákosi to resign. Erno Gero replaced him. Hardliner for hardliner. Nothing changed except the name. October 22nd, 1956. Students at Technical University Budapest formed MFEZ, Association of Hungarian University and College Students. They drafted 16 demands. Third demand, restore Nagy to premiership. October 23rd afternoon. Crowd marches to Bem statue. Reads the 16 demands. Evening crowd of 100,000 waits at Parliament. Nagy appears at 9 p.m. Calls them comrades. They boo and whistle. He promises reforms, tells them go home. Part of the crowd marches to Radio Budapest instead, state radio building. They want to broadcast their demands. 300 AVH troops guard the entrance. Student delegation enters, promptly arrested. Outside demonstrators demand their release. Evening tension builds. Single shot rings out. Who fired never established. Then volleys. AVH shooting into the crowd from inside the building. The revolution begins. By midnight, Budapest fighting street by street. Soviet tanks enter the city by October 24th. Imre Nagy becomes prime minister that morning. Communist First Secretary Erno Gero flees to Soviet Union. October 25th becomes Bloody Thursday, the massacre that seals the AVH's fate. Kossuth Square, Parliament, peaceful demonstration, thousands gathered, women, children, elderly. They want reforms, not war. Around them, 3 Soviet tanks carry Hungarian flags. Demonstrators believe these tanks support them. One tank stops corner of Bathory Street, removes Hungarian flag from exhaust, opens fire into crowd at Rákosi statue, Ministry of Agriculture building rooftop. AVH snipers positioned, they open fire. Soviet troops and other tanks don't understand. They think buildings are enemy positions. Tank guns traverse, fire into Ministry of Agriculture. Ministry windows and rooftops. Demonstrators caught in crossfire. Machine gun fire. Tank shells. High explosive. Bodies pile up. British Embassy report estimates 300 to 800 dead. Some eyewitnesses claim 1,000. Communist White Book published later claims 22. Thomas Mikes counted 820 bodies at Kerepesi Cemetery next day. The injured countless. 12 trucks hauled away dead and wounded. 20 minutes of firing. Then silence. Budapest knows now. No negotiations. No reforms. Just murder from rooftops. October 28th, ceasefire declared. Soviet troops begin withdrawing to countryside garrisons. Budapest quiet. The rage building. October 29th, evening changes everything. Republic Square, Köztársaság, party headquarters. Hungarian Working People's Party, Budapest Committee. The building sits there like a middle finger. Armed AVH inside. Rumors spread. Secret prison cells underneath. Political prisoners in basement torture chambers. Worse rumor. Massacre at Mosonmagyarover. AVH opened fire on protesters there too. Multiple dead. October 29th night, small groups of armed insurgents gather near Republic Square. Inside the party building sit 150 people. 48 special police guards who arrived. October 23rd. Party officials with families seeking protection. Third Secretary Imre Mezzo commanding. Born Mayor Isaac. December 13th, 1905 in Ramaksahaza. Communist veteran, Spanish Civil War International Brigade fighter, French resistance in World War II. Hardliner, believer. October 28. Prime Minister Nagy abolished the State Defense Guard. That included party guard units. The Republic Square garrison lost official status. They should have left. They stayed. Lieutenant Colonel Tampa and Georgi Varkoni commanded 48 AVH officers in green uniforms. Border guards transferred. They had 6 machine guns, plenty of ammunition, fortified positions. October 29, Evening insurgents arrive, demanding they leave. AVH fires first. Multiple people killed. Volleys from the building. Insurgents escape. Some wounded left behind. Word spreads through Budapest. October 30th morning, just before 10 a.m., National Guard unit approaches the building. New force established by Nagy government to unify army, police, and insurgents. They call out, tell the defenders to identify themselves as legitimate security forces. Response from inside, hand grenade thrown, machine gun fire, one National Guard member wounded. His comrades retreat, but Hungarian army tanks already moving. Sent to relieve the headquarters. Crews don't know Budapest streets well. They arrive Republic Square. See another tank firing at the building. Don't realize that tank belongs to freedom fighters. They assume they're defending the same side. Start shelling the headquarters. Party building taking fire from all directions. Machine guns, rifles, tank cannons. The siege intensifies. Inside the building panic. Mezzo trying to maintain control. Defenders calling for help. Nobody responds. Budapest Party Committee. Secretary Istvan Kovács already fled. The building isolated. Soviet troops nearby in Erkel Theater, but not intervening. Nagy government made its position clear. AVH dissolved October 29th. These defenders are remnants, unauthorized. They fire on citizens, they're finished. Hours of battle. Walls collapsing from tank shells, machine gun positions suppressed. Finally white flags, defenders surrendering, emerging from the building, hands raised. Over 20 AVH officers killed in the fighting. 15 died during combat. 3 shot trying to surrender. Imre Mezzo among them. Shot during the capitulation. Taken to hospital. Died November 1st. 5 more lynched afterwards. The crowd surges in, finds AVH paybooks on bodies, shows them to everyone. These officers earned 10 times worker salaries while people starved. The evidence right there. Ink and numbers proving the privilege. Bodies displayed on the street. Money stuffed in their mouths. Symbol clear. You sold your souls for cash. Here's your payment. The lynchings brutal. Lampposts become gallows. Beatings. Mutilation. Later, propaganda shows these scenes. Communists call it fascist counter-revolution. Use the images to justify everything. But the lynchers aren't organized fascists. They're Budapest. They're workers who spent years terrified. They're families of people who vanished into 60 Andrássy Avenue. Their rage given form. After the building secured, insurgents start digging. Heavy equipment brought in, holes 10 meters deep, searching for underground cells. Rumors said secret torture chambers beneath the square. Political prisoners buried alive. Days of excavation, nothing found. Either the rumors false or the cells elsewhere. But the digging itself matters. Shows what people believed possible. What AVH had done to trust. October 30th afternoon, Nagy announces complete dissolution of AVH. Too late. The dissolution happened organically. In streets. At lampposts. With bullets and fists. Between October 28th and November 4th, approximately 213 Hungarian Working People's Party members lynched or executed. Many AVH, some just suspected, revolutionary justice dispensing without mercy or verification. 60 Andrássy Avenue headquarters evacuated October 25th, when Nagy ordered AVH disbanded. The torture cells empty. The interrogation room silent. The building standing vacant when the brief freedom came. Then, November 4th changes everything. 4 a.m. 1,500 Soviet tanks cross into Hungary. Fresh divisions. Not the garrison forces that withdrew. A full invasion. 90,000 troops. Budapest surrounded by November 10th. The revolution crushed. By November 11th, fighting ends in Csepel. Budapest's 21st district. Nearly 2,000 dead during the uprising. Most under 30 years old. Another 20,000 wounded. 200,000 flee abroad by spring 1957. Imre Nagy arrested November 22nd. Lured from Yugoslav embassy under false promises of safe conduct. Taken to Romania. Secret trial. June 16th, 1958. Executed along with Defense Minister Pal Malater and other close associates. Bodies buried in unmarked graves. The AVH officially dissolved, but its spirit survived. Janos Kadar installed as Soviet puppet. The same Kadar tortured by AVH in 1951. He refused to resurrect AVH by name, but created Political Investigation Department in Ministry of Interior, Department 2. 1962, reorganized as Ministry of Internal Affairs, 3. MIA, 3. Different name, same function. State security, surveillance, political control. Between 1956 and 1963, Kadar fought internal party battle. Accepted many former AVH torturers into new organization. Their expertise valuable, their brutality controlled. 1963, Kadar declared general amnesty for 1956 revolutionaries, signal that political police era ended. But MIA-3 continued until 1990. Surveilled dissidents, monitored churches, infiltrated universities, just quieter than AVH, more selective. Hungary became only Warsaw Pact nation without formal intelligence service, all functions absorbed into Ministry of Interior. Legacy of AVH making any separate agency politically impossible. The casualty accounting never finished properly. Republic Square 20, AVH, dead confirmed. Some sources say 25. Imre Mezo died November 1st from gunshot wounds. Lajos Szabo killed in fighting. Josef Pap killed. Chenos Astalos killed. 36 death sentences handed down during post-revolution reprisals against those accused of Republic Square participation. Most cases evidence thin, many executed anyway. Bloody Thursday at Kossuth Square, the numbers forever disputed. Communist White Book claims 22. British Embassy reports 3 to 800. Eyewitnesses claim up to 1,000. Tamas Mikes counted 820 bodies at cemetery. The truth? Somewhere in the chaos. Machine gun fire doesn't leave neat records. Tank shells don't discriminate. The dead buried quickly. Mass graves, individual plots, records lost or destroyed, families fleeing the country unable to account for missing. Vladimir Farka's testimony in 1989 opened the archive slightly. He described the hydrochloric acid vats, confirmed the fingernail extractions, named Istvan Ries as victim beaten to death. Admitted Soviet MGB called in when AVH torture insufficient. His confession came 33 years after AVH dissolved. By then, elderly, no prosecution followed. Too many years, too many complicit parties, too many people who joined revolutionary government later worked for MIA-3. Just as complicated when torturers and victims both served the same post-revolution system. Kadar himself tortured then torturer's administrator. The moral mathematics, impossible. Today, 60 Androsy Avenue operates as House of Terror Museum, opened February 24th, 2002 under Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Controversial from start. Critics say it conflates Aerocross and communist crimes. Defenders say it documents both totalitarian systems accurately. The basement preserved, cells reconstructed, visitors take slow elevator down, video screens show testimony, former prisoners describing interrogation methods. The small screens display communists who were first leaders, then prisoners, then interrogators again. The building's black facade visible from distance, word terror cut into roof overhanging. When sun hits right angle, the word's shadow falls across the building. Permanent reminder casting itself. Republic Square renamed, now Pope John Paul II Square. The party headquarters building demolished, new construction replaced it. Underground memorial opened 2014. Remembers October 30th, 1956. Displays photographs. Testimony. The flag with hole cut out where communist symbol was. Names of known dead on circular wall around gravesite. Not complete list, never will be. Too many unknown, too many records destroyed, too many fled without trace. Kossuth Square Memorial underground since 2014. Accessed by stairs in Square Center, bullet hole markers, bronze spheres on Ministry of Agriculture building wall, each sphere marking where shots hit October 25th. The wall preserved, the holes marked. The evidence permanent. The survivors scattered globally. 35,000 came to United States. Canada took many. Australia. Western Europe. They brought stories, testimonies, photographs smuggled out. John F. Kennedy called them freedom fighters. Eisenhower administration provided aid but no military intervention. National Security Council study from January 1956 already concluded against U.S. military action. Suez Crisis happened simultaneously. Israeli, British, French forces invading Egypt. World attention split. UN focused on Suez, not Budapest. Hungary pushed aside. Soviet calculation perfect. Invade during global distraction. Crush resistance before NATO reacts. By the time world refocused, Hungary already lost. The 88 precepts never found in AVH documentation. No written motto existed. But Vladimir Farka's phrase captured it. Whatever it takes to make them confess. That drove every action, every torture session, every show trial. Evidence didn't matter. Truth didn't matter. Only compliance, only the signature on confession, only the validation of predetermined guilt. Peter's training came from NKVD, Soviet methods perfected through millions of victims. Hungary got the export version, adapted to local conditions but fundamentally identical. The socialist system required enemies. If enemies didn't exist, create them. If they won't confess, make them. If they die in process, their death proves guilt. Gabor Peter lived until January 23, 1993. died in Budapest, no prosecution, no trial. He served 6 years prison after 1953 arrest, released 1959, given bureaucrat position, retired quietly. The man who tortured thousands died in his bed. János Kadar ruled until 1988, died July 6, 1989, just before system collapsed, buried with state honors, complex legacy, tortured by AVH, led post-revolution repression, gradually liberalized, granted amnesty, created relatively prosperous Goulash communism, still ultimately Moscow's servant, still responsible for executions. Erno Gero fled to Soviet Union October 1956, never returned, died July 12, 1980. Budapest buried his reforms in mass graves. Andras Hegedus, the puppet prime minister, lived until October 23, 1999, taught sociology, wrote memoirs, avoided consequences. The children of victims found each other decades later. Memory Project collected oral histories. Survivors recorded testimony. Hungarian Revolution of 1956 remains national holiday. October 23rd, declared when Third Hungarian Republic founded 1989. The day students marched, the day shooting started, the day freedom tried, schools close, flags fly. Speeches delivered. Veterans march if still alive. Their numbers diminishing annually. Born in 1930s, now in 90s, if surviving. The living memory fading, but the archives remain. Historical Archives of Hungarian State Security maintains files. Research access granted 1990. Scholars spending decades cataloging 20 million pages. Surveillance reports, interrogation transcripts, arrest records, thousands of names, millions of betrayals, neighbor reporting neighbor, friend informing on friend. The infrastructure of fear documented in triplicate. Some files still sealed, some destroyed before fall of communism. MIA, 3 operatives, burned documents 1989. Whole departments erased, but enough survived, enough to reconstruct the system, enough to name the guilty. Though prosecution rare, illustration laws debated endlessly. Who should face consequences? Which crimes warrant punishment after 40 years? Who gets access to files? Victims, perpetrators, general public? Every answer creates new injustice. Revealing informants destroys families. Sealing files protects perpetrators. No clean solution exists when entire society complicit at some level. The AVH employed 50,000 at peak. Not all torturers. Most clerks, drivers, cooks, janitors, ordinary jobs in extraordinary organization, but they enabled, they facilitated. They took the paychecks, the paybooks displayed on corpses. October 30, 1956 showed this. 10 times factory wages, the economic privilege buying loyalty, buying silence, buying complicity. When revolution came, the mob didn't distinguish. AVH meant guilty, badge meant death. Whether you pulled fingernails or filed reports, the street justice same. 23 confirmed dead at Republic Square party headquarters. More elsewhere that day. Running total across Budapest, lampposts busy, revolutionary militia groups hunting AVH members. Joseph Dudas led 400-man unit. Attacked suspected collaborators. Some legitimate targets. Some mistaken identity. Some personal vendettas disguised as revolutionary justice. By October 30, city councils trying to establish order. Revolutionary committees formed, trying to unify insurgent groups. Bela Karali appointed to Revolutionary National Defense Committee, former prisoner now general, attempting to create coherent force from chaos. Too late. November 4th invasion made it irrelevant. The Soviet calculation brutal and efficient. Let them taste freedom. Let them think they won. Pull back garrison forces. Wait. When they relax, invade with overwhelming force. Fresh divisions against exhausted insurgents. 90,000 troops against armed civilians. Tank divisions against Molotov cocktails. The outcome never in doubt, just the duration. Budapest fought 11 days. Corvin Cinema held until November 15th. Killian Barracks until November 11th. Chapelle Industrial District until November 11th. Then silence. Soviet occupation complete. The arrests beginning. The revenge starting. The new terror replacing old terror. The AVH ended October 29, 1956 by government decree. Ended October 30 by street violence. Ended symbolically when last defenders died at Republic Square, but the impulse survived. The infrastructure survived. The files survived. The informants survived. The methods survived. Just rebranded. Just reorganized. Just more careful. The lesson learned was don't be obvious. Don't concentrate in one building. Don't make your privilege visible. Don't let them hate you openly. Spread the surveillance. Distribute the fear. Make everyone feel watched without seeing watchers. MIA. 3 perfected this. Ran until 1990 with fraction of AVH visibility and double the effectiveness. The House of Terror displays it all. Arrow cross room showing Nazi Hungarian period, AVH room showing communist period, parallel terror. Different ideologies, same methods. Torture doesn't require particular political theory, just certainty of righteousness, just dehumanization of enemy, just removal of accountability. Given those conditions, humans torture efficiently regardless of whether they call themselves fascist or communist or anything else. The museum's lesson transcends Hungarian history, shows what humans do when convinced their cause justifies any means, shows what happens when state power meets absolute ideology. But Republic Square, October 30, 1956, showed something else, showed what happens when the terrorized stop being afraid, when the equation reverses, when the torturers become the hunted. And the lynchings weren't justice, weren't trials, weren't legal, but they were human, were comprehensible. Were there released pressure from 11 years of fear? Every body hanging from lamppost represented thousands tortured. Every AVH officer beaten to death paid for dozens disappeared. The math didn't balance. Can't balance. But the impulse made sense. The crowd had the receipts, had the names, had the addresses, had 11 years of whispered warnings about 60 Androsy Avenue, had the knowledge of who was taken and who never returned. The final accounting never finished. Can't finish. Too many dead without names. Too many disappeared without graves. Too many fled without records. Too many complicit without punishment. Too many victims without justice. The files and historical archives keep getting declassified. New names added to victim lists. New informant networks mapped. New torture descriptions documented. The process continues, but the principal's mostly dead. Peter, 93, Kadar, 89, the generation that built and ran the system dying off. Their victims dying too. The window for justice closing biologically. What survives are buildings and documents and memories. 60 Androsy Avenue stands. Republic Square transformed but mapped. Kossuth Square memorialized. The bullet holes marked. The cells preserved. The interrogation rooms reconstructed. The files archived. The photographs displayed. The testimony recorded. Future generations will access this. We'll study it. We'll try to understand how normal people built torture state. How teachers and tailors and clerks became executioners. How ideology justified atrocity. How fear maintained itself through violence. The Hungarian case offers laboratory clarity, small country, concentrated timeline, extensive documentation, clear before and after. The lessons translate. The end came in fire. 23 dead at Republic Square. Over 200 party members killed during uprising. Nearly 2,000 total dead, 20,000 wounded, 200,000 exiled. The State Protection Authority dissolved by decree. Destroyed by violence, succeeded by renamed organization that learned subtlety. The bloody end at Budapest wasn't clean ending. Was transformation? Was adaptation? Was the system learning to survive without the building at 60 Androsy? Learning to operate without obvious brutality? Learning to maintain fear without visible terror? Archives revealed in 2023 showed the planning. MIA-3 designed while AVH still functioned. Contingency against revolution. Separate structure. Distributed command. Less centralized. More resilient. When AVH fell, the replacement ready. Kadar just implemented existing plans. The Soviet advisors already wrote the manuals. The torture didn't end. It professionalized. Got quieter. More selective. More deniable. No more vats of hydrochloric acid. More psychological methods. Isolation. Uncertainty. Economic pressure. Social exclusion. Administrative harassment. Techniques that leave no marks. That generate no martyrs. That maintain control without generating resistance. That was the real end of Budapest Security Office. Not dramatic death. Quiet evolution into something harder to fight. Something more sustainable. The bloody October 30 moment was spectacle. Was catharsis. Was necessary purge. But wasn't conclusion. The conclusion came decades later. Gradual liberalization. Slow reform. Eventually, November 10th, 1989, Berlin Wall falls. December 25th, 1991. Soviet Union dissolves. January 1st, 1990. MIA-3 officially disbanded, 44 years after AVH formed. The security state finally ending, not through revolution, through exhaustion, through economic collapse, through system failure. The terror state that replaced the terror state eventually just stopped because nobody believed anymore, nobody feared anymore, nobody cared anymore. The archives at 60 Androsy Avenue hold the truth. Excavations at Republic Square in 2014 found nothing. No secret cells. No mass graves, just rumors and fear and memories. But the building itself confirmed everything. The torture chambers real, the cells real, the equipment real, the documentation real. 20 million pages don't lie, 50,000 operatives. Careers don't fabricate. The confessions forced, the show trials staged, the executions documented. Peter's reign of terror from 1945 to 1952 killed thousands, imprisoned hundreds of thousands, ruined millions of lives through fear alone. The bloody end, October 30, 1956, was overdue by 11 years, was inevitable, was earned. The officers who died at Republic Square died for what they enabled. The lynchings were illegal, were wrong, were war crimes, technically, but were also human response to systematic dehumanization. The mob that killed them wasn't fascist counter-revolutionaries, wasn't organized, wasn't political, was Budapest, was normal people who lived in fear, who saw their chance, who took it. History judges them less harshly than it judges the ones they killed, because history has the receipts, has the documents, has the testimony, has the evidence. In Archive Box, 742 researchers found the final evidence. Construction documents for Republic Square headquarters. No underground cells. The building plan submitted 1947. Basement level, only storage. The rumors false, but the fact that everyone believed them shows what AVH created. A reputation where any horror seemed possible, where any crime seemed likely, where the worst accusation met immediate credence. That reputation was earned through 11 years of systematic terror, through 300,000 arrests annually, through torture chambers at 60 Andrassy, through show trials and executions and disappearances, through making entire nation complicit through fear. The bullet hole markers on Ministry of Agriculture building show where shots struck October 25th. Each bronze sphere marks entry point, dozens of them. Pattern shows firing from multiple positions, rooftops, ground level, tank guns, higher angle, machine guns, horizontal scatter, the forensic evidence preserved, the massacre reconstructed, the responsibility documented, AVH snipers, Soviet tank crews, crossfire, panic. Murder dressed as crowd control. Bloody Thursday killed at minimum 300, at maximum 1,000. The truth somewhere between, forever uncertain, forever disputed. Forever, the revolution's foundational atrocity that made compromise impossible. October 30th was consequence. Was response? Was payment collected? 23 dead at Republic Square weren't innocent, were members of organization that killed thousands, were armed defenders of system that terrorized millions. Their deaths weren't justice. Justice requires courts and evidence and rights. Their deaths were revenge, earned revenge, documented revenge, the kind that happens when terror state loses monopoly on violence, when the balance shifts, when the gun muzzles point the other way. The State Protection Authority ended in blood at Budapest, October 30, 1956. Not the ending it deserved, not the trials and accountability it should have faced, but the ending it got. The ending violence begets. The ending that comes when you build your power on fear and one day the fear breaks. The system learned, adapted, survived under new names. But that day on Republic Square, the mask came off. The protection revealed as terror, the authority revealed as violence, the state revealed as gang with flags, and somewhere in the archives sits the document nobody wants to find. The one that proves the underground cells at Republic Square were real, or the one that proves they weren't. Either discovery changes nothing, because the truth about AVH doesn't live in architectural plans, lives in testimony. Lives in 20 million pages of surveillance and confessions and arrest records, lives in cemetery plots, lives in mass graves, lives in exile communities, lives in children who never knew their parents, lives in survivors who still flinch at sirens. The bloody end wasn't enough. Could never be enough, but it was something. It was a moment when fear reversed, when torture chambers emptied, when the hunted became hunters, when 23 AVH officers learned what their victims felt. When one building fell, and for 15 days before the tanks returned, Budapest believed freedom was possible. That's the real legacy, not the violence, the belief. The 15 days between revolutions, the moment when AVH ended and nothing replaced it yet, the moment before MIA 3. The moment when Hungary was Hungary again, brief, bloody, beautiful, doomed. That's what ended at Budapest. Not just the security office, the lie that terror is protection, the lie that fear is order, the lie that violence is authority. For 15 days, the lie died. Then the tanks came back, and the lie got quieter, got smarter, got more sustainable, but never recovered its confidence, never again ruled through pure fear. Always afterwards needed mixed economy and limited freedoms, and Hungarian road to socialism. Always afterwards had to negotiate, had to compromise, had to remember what happens when protection becomes terror and terror meets revolution. The last tank shell a memory, the last Molotov cocktail a stain on the asphalt. November 10th, 1956. Budapest is silent. Not the silence of peace. The silence of a held breath. The silence of a trap sprung. For 15 days, a city owned itself. Now it belongs to the occupiers again. The rage that took Republic Square is gone, replaced by a cold, methodical fear. The hunt begins. The reprisals. In Hungarian script, megtorlás. A word that would define a generation. The Soviet tanks are the fist, but the brain is Hungarian. János Kadar's new government, the revolutionary worker-peasant government, needs to secure its power. It does this not with reform, but with rope. Special police units, staffed with former AVH officers, who hid when the revolution came, emerge from the shadows. They have lists, they have addresses, they have memories. The arrests start before the rubble is cleared. They take the students first, the writers, the factory council leaders, the boys from the Corvin cinema, anyone who held a gun, anyone who wrote a pamphlet, anyone who spoke too loud during those 15 days of freedom. Between 1956 and 1959, 272,000 Hungarians are investigated. 26,000 are put on trial, 22,000 are sentenced, 13,000 are sent to internment camps. The prisons, emptied in October, are full again, fuller than before. This is not the chaotic terror of Gabor Peter's AVH. This is organized revenge, efficient, bureaucratic. The people's courts are established, no jury, no real defense, the verdict decided before the trial begins. The goal is not justice. It is extermination of the revolutionary idea. 350 people are executed. Some sources say the number is closer to 400. The exact count is lost to sealed archives and unmarked graves. Imre Nagy, the revolution's prime minister, is a special case, lured from the Yugoslav embassy on November 22, 1956, with a promise of safe conduct. The promise is a lie. He's flown to Romania. Held for 18 months, subjected to a secret trial in Budapest, he refuses to confess, refuses to ask for mercy. On June 16, 1958, he is hanged. His defense minister, Pál Malater, is executed the same day. Their bodies are buried face down in the prison yard. Lot 301, wrapped in tar paper. The final humiliation. The message is clear. Not even a prime minister is safe. The West does nothing. Radio-free Europe, which had encouraged the rebels, falls silent. The Suez Crisis provided the perfect distraction. The world watched Egypt while Moscow crushed Budapest. The lesson for Eastern Europe is brutal. You are alone. Your freedom is not worth a world war. Your hope is a liability. The architect of this new order is János Kadar, the same man whose fingernails the AVH pulled out in 1951. He understands the machine because he has been inside its gears. He knows terror alone is not sustainable. Gabor Peter's mistake was making the terror obvious. Too many arrests, too much visible brutality. It created a pressure that had to explode. Kadar's approach is different, more subtle. He dissolves the AVH by name, as Nagy had done, but its ghost remains. Its personnel are essential. By 1962, the new structure is formalized. Ministry of Internal Affairs, Main Group 3. The MIA 3, the Belugi. It absorbs the most capable, most loyal, most ruthless of the old AVH. But their methods change. The hydrochloric acid vats are gone. The midnight beatings become rare. The terror becomes paperwork. It becomes surveillance. A quiet, pervasive web of informants. It is said that in the 1970s and 80s, 1 in every 30 Hungarians was an informant for the MIA-3. Neighbor watching neighbor, colleague reporting on colleague, friend betraying friend. The goal is not to create confessions for show trials. The goal is to prevent the need for trials at all, to know what people are thinking before they have a chance to act, to isolate dissenters, to make them feel utterly alone. The new torture is psychological. Lose your job. Your children denied university admission, your passport application perpetually lost. Your phone clicks with the sound of a silent listener. Your mail arrives already opened. It is a system of control that leaves no physical scars. It breaks the spirit, not the bones. Kadar pairs this silent terror with a promise, an unspoken social contract. He gives Hungary Goulash communism, the happiest barrack in the socialist camp, private plots of land for farmers, small private businesses allowed to operate. More consumer goods in the shops than anywhere else in the Soviet bloc. A Trabant car after a 10-year wait. A small summer cottage on Lake Balaton. In exchange, the price is silence. The price is forgetting 1956. The price is political apathy. Do not ask questions. Do not join groups. Do not remember. In 1963, Kadar issues a general amnesty for many of the revolutionaries. He declares, "Whoever is not against us is with us," the opposite of the old Stalinist motto. It is a promise of peace for the price of your soul. And for 25 years, it works. The generation of 1956 grows old. Their children grow up knowing only the quiet compromise of the Kadar era. The revolution becomes a taboo topic, a ghost at the family dinner table. The word October is spoken in whispers. The bullet holes on the buildings are plastered over. The lynchings at Republic Square become a dark secret, used only in official propaganda to paint the entire uprising as a fascist pogrom. 60 Andrassy Avenue is given a new name, a new function. The House of Terror becomes a travel agency. The cells in the basement are locked and forgotten, but memory is a persistent thing. The graves in Lot 301 are known. The stories are passed down. The 200,000 refugees who fled to the west keep the memory alive. The system built on forgetting cannot last forever. By the late 1980s, the Soviet Union is crumbling. The economic promises of Goulash communism are failing. The quiet contract is breaking. The end of the silence comes on a specific day, June 16th, 1989, the 31st anniversary of Imre Nagy's execution. The opposition demands a proper reburial. The government, weak and uncertain, agrees. On Heroes Square in Budapest, 250,000 people gather. The coffins of Nagy, Molitor, and other martyrs are there, finally given honor. It is a state funeral for the revolution the state had tried to erase. A young, fiery student activist named Viktor Orban gives a speech. He stands before the old guard communists on the dais and demands the immediate withdrawal of all Soviet troops. The crowd roars. The fear is broken, for good this time. In the months that follow, the MIA-3 panics. They begin destroying their files. Shredding machines run day and night. Tons of paper documenting 40 years of betrayal are turned into pulp. They cannot destroy it all. 20 million pages survive. The infrastructure of fear, documented in triplicate. When the archives are finally opened in the 1990s, the full extent of the web is revealed. The names of the agents, the reports they filed, the lives they ruined for a small monthly payment or out of ideological zeal. It tears families and friendships apart. The quiet complicity of the Kadar era is laid bare. The question of justice returns. What to do with the torturers, the informants, the party officials who oversaw the reprisals. Lustration laws are passed, but they are weak. Many former MIA-3 officers retire with full pensions. Some become successful businessmen in the new capitalist Hungary. Gabor Peter died in his bed in 1993. János Kadar died on July 6, 1989, the very day the Supreme Court officially rehabilitated Imre Nagy. He was spared from seeing the final collapse of the world he built. Today, Pope John Paul II Square has no trace of the old party headquarters. The bullet hole markers on the Ministry of Agriculture building remain, small bronze spheres of memory. And 60 Andrassy Avenue is once again the House of Terror. Visitors walk through the reconstructed cells. They see the faces of the victims and the perpetrators. Sometimes the same face at different points in a life. They see the parallel machinery of Nazi and communist terror, one flowing seamlessly into the other. The bloody end of the State Protection Authority on October 30th, 1956, was not an end. It was a transformation. The beast did not die. It shed its skin. It learned to hunt in silence. The gunshots and the lynchings were the loud part of the story. The quiet part lasted another 33 years. It was a war fought not with tanks, but with whispers. A revolution crushed not just by force, but by a slow, comfortable, soul-crushing compromise. The final victory of 1956 was not won in the streets. It was won in 1989, when an entire nation finally decided to speak the names of the dead out loud, in the sunshine, without fear. The terror ended not when the building fell, but when the silence did.